Hello and welcome to part 2 of my lanyard and keyring tutorial. So by now you should have baked your clay. Once you've baked it, I just let it cool down in the oven, or you can just take it out and let it cool down on a tray. And what I have here is everything laid out. So I've laid out my beads in the order that I think I'm going to put them in, and I have my equipment for lanyard and keyring making sat there and ready to go. So first of all, we'll look at lanyards. So your lanyards come with breakaway clasps. That's what I'm putting on there at the moment. So that's really important for neck protection, so that if your lanyard gets pulled on, you're not going to cause yourself an injury. It's going to break away and save your neck. So you're threading both ends on separately, and you're going to then tie a little bit of a knot. If you've got some problem with that cord going through the end of your breakaway clasps, you can just cut that on a little bit of a diagonal, and then it should slide on there nicely. So sliding from, I guess, the skinny end and then tying a knot in it, just a single knot is fine, pulling it tight, and then pulling the clasp back over the top. So you know that you've done it right if your clasp will click together in the end. So that's leaving us down with the other end, and that's where you're going to thread on all of your beads from. Some other makers do it where you thread the two loose ends on. I find it much easier to do it this way. Again, personal preference. So here, threading on from the end. So whichever bead you're threading on first, that's going to go closer to your neck. The bead that you thread on last will be the closest to your keys. So here I've made it nice and easy for myself. I've laid out all of my designs, and all I need to do now is just thread them on. So they're going to go on super easy because I've chosen that hole making tool specifically for the cord that you have. So it will just thread on just like that. So this little bit that's left so that your beads don't fall off, that's for your lanyard clip. So thread it through the hoop, thread your cord over the top, and then pull it tight, and you've made a little knot, and nothing else will fall off now. So what you could do, if you don't like your beads to be kind of, I guess, moving around, is you could tie either a tiny little knot, or you could do tie a knot where both ends are going through together, and that's going to stop your beads from moving around. Just keep in mind you will lose a little bit of length by doing that. So another type of knot that you might like to do. I personally don't worry with it. I just leave my beads as it is. So I'm not going to pull any of these knots tight. I'm going to do them all because for my own style, I just like it as is. So if you find that your lanyard is a bit long when you try it on, what you can do is tie a knot down a little bit further, pull your clasp back through, and cut that excess off. It's going to shorten your string up. Again, I don't like to do that, so I'm not going to cut my string off there. So in your kit, each of your cord length will be 1 meter long for your lanyards, and I find that that's a pretty standard length of lanyard. If you would like something shorter, again, that's the process that you would do. You would pull it through on one end, tie a knot, and cut it off. So we're going to follow the same again with just a black one. So threading my clasp on, tying just a single knot on the end, pulling it tight, and then pulling that end of the clasp over the top. Some of them you do need to pull a little bit tighter just because the opening for the clasp is a bit smaller. So doing the same again, tying a knot, pulling it tight, and then passing the clasp over the top and clicking it together. So I have made a complete circle and I'm ready to thread my beads on. So at any point, if you thread your beads on and you're not loving your arrangement, you can just, slide them off, have another go. You could practice putting your beads. Sometimes before I thread them onto my lanyard, I might have like a skewer lying around. You could line them up on that and see what you like, or yeah, just have a bit of a play, bit of a change around on the lanyard itself. So threading them all on here and just picking it up to just double check that I like the arrangement. So this is one where I've used my different shapes. I've got my square, my 2 flat discs, and my long oval. So putting the lanyard clip on, so threading through the hole and then passing it over the top of the hook. So your keys, they're going to go on that little hook bit on the bottom. And then I've got another one ready to go. So just wrapping it up so that my cord doesn't get knotted. Brilliant. 2 lanyards ready to go. So with these, what I'm going to do now is make them into key rings. So I have my beads here. Normally, I would only put maybe like 3 or 4 beads on a key ring. It's up to you. Try how many that you would like to put on there. If you'd like to make it shorter, you can do that. I would obviously start off at your longest length first, because you can cut them down, but you can't make them longer once you've cut a bit off. So I just threaded my cord through my keyring clip, and now I'm threading my beads on together. So I have got the 2 loose ends, and now I'm just threading it on this way. So testing out the 5th one just to check. I mean, the colours go really well together, but for me personally it's just a little bit long. So to make sure that your beads don't fall off, what you need to do is create a knot. So creating a loop and then passing the cord through that loop. Make sure that you pull your ends super tight. And we're going to fix these ends up later on. So I've cut them. Just to stop the cord from fraying, what you can do is just get like a lighter or a match, or just hold it over the candle and just put the cord close to it. Don't catch it on fire or anything, but because it is a waxed nylon cord, that heat will just melt the ends a little bit. So I've threaded my cord through the key ring, and now I'm threading my beads on. So one at a time. And the lucky last one, so playing around with a couple of different bead sizes here. So another way that you might like to tie your knot is, instead of passing your cord through your circle loop once, is pulling it through twice. That's going to make your knot a bit bigger. So again, it's going to be a little bit harder to undo, and it's going to be harder for those beads to pass over. So remember the whole time here that none of this is a toy for small children, so be super careful, especially if you do have small children around, that these beads are a choking hazard. They're not something to chew on. I know that out there are beaded teethers, but they're made from silicone. It's very different to polymer clay. So even though polymer clay is durable and it is a plastic, it's not a chew toy. So if you do, I guess, were to chew on it, or were to put it under a lot of stress, the beads themselves, they can break, they can crack, they can shatter, and yeah, for our little ones, that's not something we want. So this is what I've made from my kit, and like I said, I do have those beads left over, and what I could do with that is just switch out what I've got on my lanyard. So if you're going to switch out what's on your lanyard, you're going to undo your lanyard clip, and then just unthread all of your beads and thread your new ones straight back on. So while they're not chew toys and they can break and they can crack with your everyday use. I mean, unless you kind of, I guess, bashing them under a hammer or treading on them or chewing on them, they're very durable, and this is a lanyard or a keyring that's going to last a really long time. So the only thing I guess that can happen with them, and that would happen with them, especially your lighter colours, is they will pick up a little bit of dirt. So with that, if you do notice, especially like your lighter colours, if they're starting to get a bit stained or a bit grubby, a bit grey looking rather than nice and bright, all you need to do is either use a baby wipe or some, normally just normal water will do the trick. If it's a bit stubborn, just mild soapy water on a cloth and just give them a bit of a wipe over and it should come straight off.
Okay, we're coming towards the end of the video. I just wanted to show you a couple of little tips and tricks I had for finishing off your lanyards or your keyrings. So I'll start with the keyrings first. I've tied this in a double knot and I've got my two ends here. If I want to make them shorter, I can obviously cut them, but if I'm worried about them fraying, what you can do is you can get your lighter out and just very carefully singe the ends. We're not putting the ends into the flame, we're just putting a little bit of heat on them so that it melts them just a little bit, and it's going to stop them from fraying. Be careful, if you do put them too close, you will set it on fire, which isn't ideal, and it will be hot after you've burnt them, so don't touch them straight away, but it's a good way to finish them off. Another thing with your lanyards, if you've tried it on and for you personally, if it's a little bit too long, you can shorten them up. So what to do when you're shortening them up is undo your clasp. I like to work on the end with the open hole just because it's easier to get the knot through than the side with the little indent on it that clips in. So I'm going to push it through to get my cord out. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a knot in where I think it might go to make it a bit shorter. Put it in, and I'm just going to hold it behind my neck. Once you've cut it, you obviously can't make it any longer, so you want to be sure that this is the right length for you. So I've tied my knot on, gone, yep, that's the right length, and then all you're going to do is you're going to cut the excess off and then put your clasp back through and use it as normal. I personally like mine a little bit longer, so I'm not going to cut this one, but if that was your preference, that's all you would have to do. So a good little trick there if you want to shorten it up. And that brings us to the end of our video tutorial. I hope that you've enjoyed making your keyrings and your lanyards, and I just again want to thank you so much for your support. So enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I will see you soon. Bye!